All right, so today is Monday the 1st, and the first thing we did is got our note packets in order. And the next thing we're going to do is hop on into our last set of notes. But before we do, I want to kind of just discuss parallel and perpendicular lines with you guys. And I want you to take out your Chromebooks. We're all going to go to a graphing utility on your Chromebooks because we're going to back up everything we do so that you have a visual and so that you don't have to graph by hand. I think that's why everybody finished today in class last hours, because they were just checking them on their computer instead of by hand. All right? I'm recording today. So the graphic, I'll let you guys, and if you're at home, you should really go into this as well. So we're going to all just go to Google, type Desmos, but there's two kinds. There's a scientific calculator and the graphing calculator. So you want Desmos graphing calculator. I'm going to click on that. And it's going to look like this. If you could raise your hand when you're looking at, because I don't know how fast it takes your Chromebooks to get in there. We'll just leave this open during homework time today. So a lot of people last hour were like just checking theirs. All right, so raise your hand at me when you've got your, most of you do. You might want to do a couple things here in Desmos. In the top right, there's a little wrench, a little tool kit thing. Go click on it. I like to click on the capital A because it graphs stuff darker. We're going to be on Desmos, not on the graphing calculators, because the graphing calculators won't graph some of them. All right, Chromebooks, we're good? Oh, thank you, girls. One of you didn't have, do you not have your Chromebook? Is it? Okay, so click on this big A, because what that does is it'll make our graphs darker. Okay. And then some kids last hour liked this reverse contrast where it was a black background and then they were like picking the colors they were graphing, and that doesn't really matter. I'm going to just go back to regular white and dark. So the first thing we're going to do is talk about parallel lines. I want you to type in y equals and give me, let's just say 2x. I want you right now to remove the x. So I want you to hit delete and watch what Desmos does. Right now it's got a line with a slope of 2. The minute I take that x off, look what happened. Why do you think the line went horizontal when I deleted the x? Because 2 is not the slope anymore. Can you unplug, Jaden? The slope is 0. The x is missing. But let's do 2x plus 3. There's our line with a slope of 2 and a y-intercept of 3. I want you to hit return, and we're going to enter a line that runs parallel to it. If it runs parallel, what must its slope be? Yes, the same. So I'm going to type 2x, and let's make it hit down at 3. So I'm going to go 2x minus 3. You should have two lines running parallel. Okay? Next up, we're going to enter a perpendicular. All right, so Carter said it has to have the same slope to run parallel. If I'm going to have it run perpendicular, I have to do two things with the number 2. What's one of them? From last Friday, we need to review this before we move on. If I enter 2, I'm going to have a third line running parallel. Do you remember one of the things? Yeah, I need to have it reciprocal. I need to reciprocal, so I need to flip it. What do I get when I flip 2? Flip 2. Nope. Flip 1/2. But then you also said I need to take a negative. So you have to do two things. You have to flip and take the opposite sign. So we're going to go -1. The divided by is below the question mark. Divided by 2. And now you need to use the right arrow key to move it over. And the minute I hit X, boom, we're running perpendicular to both of those lines. If I did X plus 2, it's still running perpendicular. So we need to remember from Friday that parallel lines have the same slopes, right? Perpendicular, we do the two things you guys told me. We flip them and change the signs. Leave that open, okay? And go half-mast. We'll go back to it. We're going to check the ones we do today. So we're going to go into our new notes. They're very short. We're going to do them, check them, and then you're going to go do the homework, okay? So in your last note packet, we're going to wrap up the chapter here on 3.8 day 2. And I told you first hour they all finish their homework, but I wait till everybody's doing what we're doing. So 3.2 day 2 looks like this. Sorry, 3.8 day 2 looks like this. All right. We're going to go through. It's not much left. We did the majority on Friday. All right, so it looks like this. Miss Al, do they have theirs out back there? I can't see back there. Oops, Dad. Emma, I see yours. We got Noel's working on finding it. 3.8 day 2. All right, we're ready to roll. On the top of this, I would put a big old star. If the only thing you put on your note card is what you write on this page, you're going to do pretty well. Because do you think most of you are going to remember what alternate interior angles are? Yes. And it's only worth 1 point. Anyway, that type of answer. What's the slope of a line parallel to y equals 2x minus 2? Gabby writes 2. It's worth 1 point. This stuff today, the problems are worth 4 points-ish. All right? And it ties together a whole bunch of concepts. So we're going to remember that there's 2 forms we can write our lines in. Slope. What variable do we use for slope in here, guys? M. Yep, excellent. Intercept form. What letter do we use for the intercept? B. And remember, it's the y-intercept. If you have or can get the slope, and you have or can get the y-intercept, you can just write y equals mx plus b. It's not the strongest form of a line, though, because in order to write it, you need that specific point. Let's go off on the side here and make a little fake graph. We'll go nice and slow today. It's super important, but you guys are all with me here. So, in order to use slope-intercept form, I have to know that y-intercept. Remember, this is your y-axis. This is your x-axis. So if I were to tell Annalise it's got a y-intercept of 3, she can go boom, 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 bam. And then if I tell her slope of a half, she can go up 1 over 2, and here's her line. Put that in a box, though, right there. You have to have that point. And any line has an infinite number of points on it. How many points are on any line? Infinite. An infinite amount. Slope-intercept form requires you to get this one specifically. So it's not as strong as our next guy. The point-slope form, which is what you're going to use the most, I'm going to put a little asterisk by that. And on your note card, you should too. If you're like, I don't know how to get started, it's probably point-slope form. For this one, slope is still m, so that slope is very, very important. At this point, last hour, one of the boys said, well, what if they don't give you the slope? I said, we're going to come back to that. That's the last thing we do. All right, so now for the first part we do, you're going to know or can easily get the slope. And then on Friday, we called that point x1, comma, y1. So go ahead and write that down. And if you don't put this on a note card, this could be a train wreck, right, Miss L? All right, so we're nice and slow through it, and we're going to tie it all together today at the end of the chapter. So we're going, for this form, you do y minus that y you were given. Maybe it was 2 comma 3, and you went y minus 3, is equal to the slope, which you might be given, you might need to find. It might tell you you're running parallel, so you have to steal a slope. And then x minus x1. We're going to add a little bit to it, though, because I think you're going to, at a minimum, this should go on a note card. Even for those of you who are like, I got this chapter down. I want to try it without a note card. I would suggest erring on the safe side and at least getting this stuff on. Okay? Right here, I want you to take that y and that x and point down. Those are variables. What do I mean by variables? What do I mean by that? Because if you don't know, we better add another word to it. Yep. Placeholders. Oh, wow, what a great answer. Love that. Or you could just say letters, but those aren't numbers. Okay? These other 3 are numbers. Okay, number, number, number. Okay, and that's what that symbol means. When do we use it? I'm just going to have you point right here. When you know a point on the line. So what we're going to do is tie together all of basically last week, and we're going to add a little twist to it. We're going to check our stuff on Desmos. We're going to go nice and slow. Here's our first question. It says, write, oops, I have an extra D in there. Write an equation for the line that's running parallel. I always tell my AP Calculus kids, I say, you need to box it because their written directions are like this long for a problem. Like their FRQs, there's so much stuff for them to sort out. I always tell them, you need to box in really important words. That's an important word for the first one. What's my important word for the second one? Perpendicular. And what's my important word for the third one? Parallel. Okay? And we already said that parallel lines, how are their slopes related? They're equal, guys. Yeah, excellent. So we're going to write steal M. We're going to steal it because they run the same. Same down here. Whatever the slope is on one of them, we're going to steal it. Steal M. Remember on Desmos, I entered y equals 2x plus 3 to get it to run parallel. You guys said I had to do y equals 2x, and I could choose any number. Okay? For perpendicular, I will not steal M. What will I do with it? Two things. I will flip it, flip M, and excellent. Now I need somebody else to answer some of my questions. And opposite. You're doing excellent though, kiddo. All right. Now I'm going to give you time to write that. We're not doing very many of them. We're going to do 3 of them really slow, and then we're going to check them on Desmos. All right. So our important words up there were parallel and perpendicular. So now let's go to, we need to run parallel to this line. I want you to go to Desmos. So go ahead and unhalf-mast your computers and type in y equals 2x minus 1. Okay? So that's all. I'm not going to because I just taught you guys how to do it. Type in y equals 2x minus 1. And it's going to graph a line with a slope of 2. And notice it's going through 0, negative 1. It's hitting the y-axis down there, correct? We need to run parallel to it. So we're going to be entering y equals, or something that don't yet. But unfortunately, I have to create the equation for the second one. Because it said parallel, what slope are we going to use? 2. So underneath, let's write m. I like to write like this, so I know this is the slope of a line running parallel, so I put those little 2 slanted lines right there. Why are we using 2, by the way? Doesn't mean on every problem we're going to use 2. Exactly, because it said parallel, and this guy's got a slope of 2. Okay? Now you have to ask yourself, did they give me the y-intercept, or just some random one of the infinite points on the line? Y-intercept, or just one of the infinite number of points? One of them, right? So let's go label that x1, y1. Good, you're all righty. Now I'm ready. I have my ingredients for point slope form. It goes like this. All right, I'm going to do my final answer in red. It goes y, oopsie, in red. There we go. It goes y minus y1. What number am I going to write down? 3, excellent. Is equal to the slope. What's my slope going to be? 2. What if it said perpendicular, guys? It didn't, but what if it did? You get negative 1/2. Excellent. So y minus 3 is equal to 2 times x minus what? Negative 1. And what do we get when we have x minus the negative 1? Plus. Now, it doesn't say to change the forms, so I'm going to circle this, and you guys are going to go into your graphing calculator, go into Desmos, and for your second one, this is in your first one. In your second one, go y minus 3 equals 2 parentheses. That's why I said we're going to use Desmos. Those of you with graphing calculators, it only takes it in y equals form, so it's just not as user-friendly as the computer. So y minus 3 equals 2 parentheses. And then what is it? X plus 1. This one's perfect. Yep.
Do you have a probo chart for that tomorrow?
I do, honey. Just give me 1 second. Looks good, looks good. Are they running parallel? Yeah. Did your new line go? I was just looking over Ella's shoulder, but hers went through 1 to the left and 3 up. Did we do a good job? Yes or no? We did great. We're going to move on to the next one. So half mast for a sec. All right. Our next one. Okay, keyword perpendicular. So I'm going to go to this slope. I am not going to steal it this time. I like to write it like this. The line perpendicular slope. That's what we do in calculus. We write M sub and then we put a little perpendicular. All right? I'm not going to steal 1/3. I'm going to do those 2 things to it. What am I going to do to it? Flip it, make it 3/1, and take the opposite sign. Don't say it's negative. Say opposite sign. So what do you get when you flip 1/3? 3/1, but if somebody asked me my age, I wouldn't say 53/1, right? So 3. What's wrong with that? If we go graph that when we're done, they're not going to be perpendicular, right? What do I need to do with it? Negative. All right. There's one ingredient. I need the slope. They didn't give it to me, but I know perpendicular lines. I know how their slopes are related. Then I go to the point, and I ask myself, did they give me the y-intercept or just some random point on the line? Random. So I'm just going to go x1, y1 underneath that. And now we're going to go, you're going to go write it in point slope form. If you need to flip your page back to that sheet you're going to put on your note card, go ahead. If you don't, you're just faster. So before we can go to Desmos and see how we did, you need to write it in point slope form. This is halfway done with the notes, by the way. They're quick. I'm just going through them really slow and we're getting a visual. Did anyone think they have it correct in point slope form? Raise your hand if you think you got it. All right. Somebody, yeah, Mallory, what'd you write?
Y plus 3.
Why'd you say plus?
Because it's 2 negative.
Yes, it's y minus negative 3 is equal to, then what'd you put?
Negative 3.
Yep.
And then in parentheses, x plus 2.
Excellent. Put it in a box. Because it doesn't say what form I'm supposed to write it in, so I'm not going to mess with it yet. Okay? Now go into Desmos, and we're going to graph both of those. So go ahead and unmask your computer. You're going to graph y equals 3x plus 5. The one they gave me. So this one right here, again, when you do the 1 divided by 3, hit the right arrow key before you type the x. You should see a line that hits the y-axis at 5, okay, and goes up 1 over 3. And then in the second slot, you're going to enter this guy. If we're good, and if Mallory didn't make a sign error, right, we should see 2 perpendicular lines. What does the word perpendicular mean? Hitting at what? Right angles, right? You should be seeing that. And the second one you enter, go check and go 2 to the left and 3 down and see if that's on your line. Let's see what they look like. I'm not doing it because I'm... And is -2, -3 on your line? Yes, it is. Okay. You can even plot that point. What Carter did is that's a really good, here's what he did, guys. In his Y1, he entered this guy right here. In his Y2, he entered this guy. Carter, what did you enter in your Y3? He entered the point like this, and it plotted it, right? And he could see it sitting there on that second line. That's kind of cool, right? Or you can just walk along the line. How are we doing so far? Now we're going to make a twist before we do number 3 because on your worksheet, so go ahead and write this, some of them say in slope intercept form. This is point slope form. And if it said point slope form, I'd leave it. If it didn't say any kind of form, I'd leave it. But if Dante is doing his worksheet and it says write final answer in slope intercept form, what do we have to solve it for? Has to be of the form y equals mx plus b. So what do I have to solve it for? Y. Yep, it's just going to need a little tweak. So go ahead and write slope. My work's running into the next problem, but that's okay. Slope-intercept form. Well, it's almost there. It's y plus 3. So what would I do? Go ahead, Andrew. Yep. Yeah, let's subtract 3, and we get y equals negative 3 times x plus 2 minus 3. Andrew, is that in slope-intercept form? Close, though. I just need to get rid of the parentheses. How? Yep, go ahead, Noel. What'd you say?
Negative 3 to x. And then
Oh, he's doing, yep, he's distributing. So negative 3x, and then it'd be minus 6, right? And then minus 3. Is that in slope-intercept form, Jacob? It's close. It'd be y equals negative 3x, and then minus 6 minus 3 is 9. Okay? On your computers, enter that. It's going to fall right on top of the other one, because it's the same line, just in a different form. So you're technically going to have 3 lines that you've entered, but you're only going to see 2, because the third one's going to fall on top. Okay? Did it work? Just waiting. It's looking good? Looking good? Yeah, it just made that one really dark because it did one on top of the other. All right, our last one of this kind, okay, and then we're going to go practice a little bit on the worksheet. Number 3, okay? Be very careful. Let's go circle this guy. I'm going to go back to red, I think. Let's go circle this guy. I need the slope, so I'm going to write m of the line parallel equals. And everybody look up here, we're going to change the problem, all right? I want you to go put a plus right here. Go put a plus right there. Go enter that one. So go clear out the last problem and enter 2x plus y equals 4. Desmos doesn't care what form it's in. That's why we're on that one. If we're on our graphing calculators, we have to solve all of for y. So go enter 2x plus y equals 4. So that's the line they're kind of using to help us out. 2x plus y equals 4. Okay? Do you see how it's going downhill? Everybody, do you see? Like I'm looking at Ella's and I'm looking at Avery's. Do you see how that line is going downhill? It does not have a slope of 2. Look up at that equation. Right? Taylor, it does not have a slope of 2. It's going downhill. But there's a 2 in front of the x. Uh-oh. Why? What do I need to do with this line they gave me before I know its slope? Its slope is not 2. So yes, I need to steal the slope. I do. But it's not 2. You can see it. It's going downhill. It's negative. What do I have to solve it for? Y, Alexandria. Yes. So how do we get rid of that positive 2x right there? What am I going to do with it? Subtract it. Let's go do that. I would then, if I did it over here and I did it over here, I'd have y equals 4 minus 2x. Now I can steal the slope. Or maybe Royce is like, LaRue, that bothers me. I like it to be in mx plus b form. These are the same line. What's its slope now? It's not 2. What is it? Negative 2. So our slope we're going to steal is a negative 2. See, so make sure you solve it for y before you steal that slope. So now we have our slope, and we have a point it needs to go through. Is that point the y-intercept or just some random one of the infinite number of points on the line? What do you think? 0 over 3 up. Y-intercept or not? What do you think? You're nodding. I know I'm recording more quiet, but I can see you're listening, right? If you recognize that this is the y-intercept, now we'll talk about, well, what if I don't? You can just write y equals mx plus b. Circle it and go plug it in. Go to your Desmos and put it in y2. You will see a line running parallel to that one. It's just going to be a little bit below it. They're really close, right? Because They're very, very close. They kind of should look like two, like, you ever play those pickup sticks? Probably not, you guys are too young to know what pickup sticks. Perfect, looks good. All right, perfect, looks good, looks good. Now let's suppose that Gabby just was like in the zone and the first two were done with point slope form, so she didn't recognize that that was the y-intercept. Because I would say most of you wouldn't, don't you think? You'd be like, I just got some point. So suppose she didn't, and she called this some x1 and some y1. Right, Gab? She would have gone like this. Y minus the y she knew was equal to her slope times x minus 0, which is just x. Do you see how they're the same thing? Because Gabby, how would you move your minus 3 over? You just add it up, and you get this exact same answer. So point slope form's your best friend. We're all going to stop for 1 second. We're going to take out your worksheet. You have it. It says 3.8 day 2. We're going to do number 1 together. And I'm going to have you work for about, well, I think until somebody's done. So when the first person finishes the front, then we're going to go do number 6 together on the back. But we'll have to come back to notes for a second. I think we need to just stop for a minute here. And it looks like, looks like this. It's not very long. If you can do one of these, you can do 20 of them. So we're going to go do number 1 together. Are you ready? And then we'll check it on Desmos. Everybody find theirs? It's the last one of the chapter. So I'm going to scroll. And those of you at home, we're on 3.2, day 2, which I linked on Schoology. I have some people actually. But yeah. So let's go do number 1 together. It says, write an equation for the line that contains 2, 5 and runs, circle the word, parallel to. The minute it says parallel to, you're going to write m equals, and are you going to steal it? Or are you going to flip it over and take the opposite sign? Steal it. So we're going to write m equals 2. I like to write it like this, with the little lines like that. Okay? Now I'm going to read the rest of it, and I'm going to circle something. Write your answer in, what does it say? Slope-intercept form. Circle that. It's important. You might need to go to your note card to look at what that is. It contains the point 2, 5. Is that, so go ahead and write that down. Is that the y-intercept, or is that just one of the infinite other points on the line? Infinite other points on the line. So you might want to label it x1, y1. It's not 0, b. And we're going to go like this. We're going to launch into point slope form. Y minus, what number? 5, excellent, is equal to the slope that I'm stealing. So Desmos will graph it parallel. And then we're going to go x minus 2. If you do that on the test, you're going to see it come back with a minus, I think 2. I'm not sure. I have to ask. 1 or 2. Let's say 1 for now. Read the directions. What form does it say it's supposed to be in? Slope-intercept form, which means you need to get rid of 2 things. The minus 5. How am I going to get rid of that? Add it. So I'll write y equals 2 times x minus 2 plus 5. I'd take a half off still, wouldn't you, Miss L? Or even 1. It might have had that word 2. I'm not sure. What's wrong with it? Somebody who hasn't answered anything yet. What else do I need to get rid of? Someone on this side. Go ahead. The parentheses, Emma. Yep. So let's distribute. Y equals 2x minus 4 plus 5. That would definitely be just a half off. Right? What needs to happen now, guys? Add them. Yep. Go ahead and get those together right there. So it's going to be y equals 2x. It looks like plus 1. That's my answer. To check it, which I only gave you 4 of them, because I want you, instead of doing 10 of them and not checking them, I want you to do 4 and check them. How do you check it? What are you going to put in y1? What are you going to put in your first line on Desmos? 2x minus 1, right? The one they gave you. So go y equals 2x minus 1, hit enter. And then your answer, y equals 2x plus 1. Are they running parallel? They go in really quickly, right? Yep. And is the second one going through 2 over 5 up? All right, so you guys are going to work for either 10 minutes or until somebody's done with number 4. And then we're going to go do one more example and do 6 together. Okay, so go ahead and work on the front. If you're 100% sure, I'm going to pause this so that the people don't have to sit there and listen to you guys just working. We'll do the last example in the notes, and then we'll go do number 6 together. And then if you finish in class, you can just turn it in. So it says line AB contains the points -1, 2. I think I'm going to go graph that. -1, 2. That's this guy. 1 to the left and 2 up. And then 3 to the left and 7 down. We're back in the notes. This is the biggest question on your test. For example, the most missed question. And it's also worth the most points. So it says, what is the equation? So let's go draw this line first. I'll try to go straight. I kind of have a hard time with that one. It says, what is the equation for the line that goes through 4, -1? I'm going to switch colors on us here. And runs parallel. Okay, so first of all, I can't enter anything in Desmos right now because at a minimum, regardless of which form I need, Desmos kind of needs a slope to work with. So right here, I need to get the slope of this line so I know how to run parallel to it. How am I going to get the slope of a line through 2 points? Who remembers from last week? Somebody new. Yep, go ahead.
Y minus y 1 or 2.
It doesn't matter. Let's do y2 minus y1 just to, okay? Yes, you grab the y's first and you subtract them. And then divide it by what, Taylor?
X2 minus y2.
X2 minus x1. Perfect. Last week I said to get yourself started, just always grab that last number. Which one?
Last.
The last one. So you make sure you grab y2 first. So somebody last hour said, couldn't I just rise and run? And I said, yeah, but let's pretend you didn't see the graph. I'm doing it so you have a visual, but on your test there will be graph paper sitting here. So yeah, she said, well, I just went up 9 over 2. And I said, well, okay, but let's make sure you know how to use the formula. So -7 minus 2, right? Over, now you gotta be careful with those signs, -3 minus a -1. All right, so when I say Jaden, be careful with those signs. In the denominator, the top's a nice -9, but what does this become, that minus the -1? Plus, yes, boom. So, that does not simplify, but I have 2 negatives, and what do 2 negatives make with division? A positive. So my slope of my line running parallel, will I steal it, or will I flip it and take the opposite sign? Steal it. Okay, so my line needs to have a slope of 9 over 2. I could actually go graph it right now. I could go up 9 and over 2, and here's my line. But it didn't say to graph it. It said write an equation for it. So then you go back and you say, do I know the y-intercept or just some random point, Maddie? Is that the y-intercept or just some random point? Random point. Okay. So I'm going to get my poop in a group here. My slope is going to be a 9 over 2, and my point is going to be, and I just lost it, but it was a 4, -1. I want you guys to write that in point slope form, and then we're going to decide if we're going to leave it. Okay, here's our slope. Here's our point. It's not the y-intercept. So we should be going y minus -1 is equal to the slope times x minus 4. Now I lost the directions. Did it say what form to put our line in? You guys have to go read it because I can't read it. Did it say? What form does it say? Ooh, it does say slope intercept form? Ooh, why do I go icky? There's fractions. What would I have to solve it for? Y, which I'm not going to. Okay? But kind of always read that. On your test, it'll say that, but they won't be ugly fractions, so I don't want to mess your brain up. But now, everybody, we're going to go do number 6. Okay? So on number 6, you guys got to go read it. Are we going to run parallel or perpendicular? Number 6 on homework. We're going to run perpendicular. All right, so I'm going to write M perpendicular equals. I need to flip and take the opposite of a slope, but they didn't give it to me. Right? Number 6 on the homework. So how am I going to get that slope? Which number am I going to grab? I purposely don't have it up here. On number 6, what's y2? The 5. Exactly, Maddie. And Maddie, can you tell me what y1 was? 5 minus? -2 over? Can somebody back that? Because I'm not looking at it. Miss L, did she do it right? All right. Maddie, 2 negatives make a positive, right? Maddie, does this simplify this 7 over -4? It doesn't. But because we're going to back it up with a graph, I'm going to actually write that negative on the top. All right. What point are we supposed to run through for number 6? Go ahead and tell me, Maddie. You're being my helper right now. 4, -1. Do you guys agree with her? Yes? So, am I going to go slope-intercept form? Or random point-slope form? Point-slope. All right. Here's my point. So let's go do it. Y minus the -1 is equal to the slope. Am I going to steal it? Or am I going to flip it and take it opposite? I did, right. This is perpendicular, so be careful because I did not flip it yet, right? I need to flip it and make it positive. Why did I do that this time? What word triggered that? Perpendicular. So I'm going to write 4/7 times x minus the x I know. Now I have to decide before I put it in a box. What form does it say to leave your answers in? Oh, point-slope form. Thank you, Miss Lee. You're welcome. That's done. If it said slope-intercept form, you would solve for y. All right, go ahead and work. If you finish, you can put it up here. We still have about 7 minutes, and we shouldn't have much left. Yeah. You don't need to graph it unless you want to see the graph. On the test, there's no graphing. I like you to see it, though. Yeah. And you know what? You're kind of on the. Can I do mine? So you take that off, so you put it on the front.
I went to 365. I went on
Remember too, once the bell rings, you have advisory. Don't put your stuff away, though. You still have 5 minutes, and some of you can finish that. Is it?
Yeah.
That'll make it easy, right? Daddy, when you're done with it, you go to me.
It's just hard.
Yeah,
Now, like, everyone
I
knows it is a class,
had it first stapled in here, but because it was weird, I handed you out it stapled correctly. So I did. Yeah, so in your stuff, so you only have 1 more to do and it's number 6. You can just turn that. But it's right here is the one we're actually, oh, but there is more. So just go ahead and do these 3. You just staple it on. Yeah, you'll be fine. For those late ones, they go in the yellow. Alexandria, is she back there? Can you come up here for a sec? What was your plan? Because the deadline for retaking test 2 is Wednesday, and I know you did all this stuff for it.
On Monday after school.
Can we do tomorrow after school? Okay, we'll do that. Yep. Yep, you can put it right there if you're done.
And then I just like listened to